Hey guys, this is Podcast with Elena. One more time, we're talking to Joe Camacho. Joe Camacho is a credit analyst with the Phoenix Group. And today, those of you who are trying to qualify for a Divvy Homes Rent-to-Own Program, we're going to take an in-depth look into a very difficult problem that we sometimes encounter. Some of the clients, some of the applicants for Divvy program have excellent credit. They have 700, 800 credit, and they're still being rejected from Divvy Homes. Why? The reason that we find out they were rejected is they called insufficient or the minimum rent requirements not met. What did it mean? How do we deal with that? This is what we're going to talk about. So give me just 1 second. My name is Elena Garrett. I am a realtor with Keller Williams Central in DFW. Please like and subscribe. So Divvy Rent-to-Own Program, for those of you who are just now stumbling into this video without actually knowing much about the program, just very briefly, it's a rent-to-own program where you submit an application, go through the background check and receive a budget, start home shopping on your own. Divvy gives you means to go ahead and purchase a house. They purchase a house on your behalf. You start to rent that home. You prepare for actual loan application with a loan officer. You receive a loan pre-qualification letter, and then you buy the house back from Divvy. This is in a nutshell the program, the rent-to-own program that's available in DFW. Now, the nuts and bolts of that program is what sometimes stumbles many applicants. So what does Divvy requires? Divvy requires a FICO 2, FICO 9, and Vantage 4 credit scores, which need to be above 550. Now, if you don't know how to pull up those scores, what the scores means, we actually have a separate video with Joe that we just recorded a few minutes ago, and I'm going to put a link to that video here in the description. Next, they want to have documents of employment, the bankruptcy, eviction, short sales in the last 12 months, but now we come to a biggie one, the biggie one, that one that gets most people. Monthly income needs to be 2 times over your monthly debt. So far, so good. And you'll say, oh yeah, my monthly income is over 2 times over my monthly debt. And here we go. Minimum rent that you can pay with Divvy is $1,650, which means that they're going to take this, your disposable income, and then either divide it by 2 or by 3. And we're about to go into the nuts and bolts of that problem. And you're going to see why your credit score matters when you apply with Divvy Homes. So we're at this part of the Divvy Home process. We're at the application part where they do an instant soft credit pull. Okay, your credit score is 700. You pass that one. Qualification questions. They ask you how much approximately you pay per month, how much you're making per month, and issue a pass-fail result. And you get a fail result and you're like, wait a second, my score is a perfect score. Divvy sucks. So let's look at what actually failed you. Insufficient minimum rent. How is your budget determined? So what we have is Divvy separates the applicants into 2 basic categories that are below 590 FICO. By FICO, they mean FICO 2, FICO 4, and Vantage 9. And if you're below 590, they take your disposable income, they divide it by 3, creating a smaller budget for you. If you're above 590, then they just divide that number by 2. It sounds like not a big difference, right? 3, 2, not a lot of difference, but it makes a ton of difference when you actually receive your fail, you're not eligible to apply with Divvy. So let's look at why we fail. Let's just say, Joe, let's run through this process. Let's just run through this kind of calculation together. Let's just say that our minimum requirement for to be eligible for Divvy is $1,650, right? And let's just take a look at this household budget, $5,500 a month, and they have $320 debt per month. You would think that having a 5 or 10 points difference in FICO 2, FICO 4 Vantage would not make a huge difference. But in fact, let's look at what happens. If you're above 590, we take 550 divided by 50%, because remember, if you're above 590, you're only divided by 50%, not by 1/3. And then that amount minus 320, we receive a nice healthy budget of $2,400, Plus, and with this healthy budget, I can tell you probably qualify for about $350,000 home. But let's just say instead of 590 or 600, you're actually at 580 or even 585 or even 589. What happens then? The same budget got, the same income got divided by 3, and then we take 320 out of that amount. And let's look at what happened. Now we're at 1330, which is below the minimum 1650. And now you failed. So even having 10 points difference on your credit score makes a huge difference. So what does Divvy says? Strategies to increase your budget in case they failed you due to the minimum budget not met. Bring additional sources of income, create a Coapplicant, improve your credit score, or increase your down payment. So Joe, now let's look at how you can help us. So Joe, can you tell me just a little bit about what you do, like in a nutshell? And because I don't have enough vocabulary to actually describe all the wonderful things that you do. Go ahead.
Basically, my position, and how, we partner together is just to add additional a resource for everybody, for any potential buyer, to make sure that we're looking at things from not just from a Divvy standpoint, from an underwriting standpoint. That's what it's going to really come down to. We don't know what that is, and in underwriting, that's basically the line of defense that a financial institution is going to utilize. The ones, to put it simply, they're the ones protecting the bank, and they're the ones who are going to put everything under the microscope and scrutinize everything and literally make a mountain out of a molehill. Mm-hmm. So part of what I do to assist you is to get you prepared for some of those things that they're going to look at and deem as a red flag, right? Or I can be able to start helping you guys critique your credit report. So when I hand you back to Elena and you get ready for the Divvy pre-approval process, that you're now a low-risk consumer. So one of the things with, having those financial responsibilities sometimes that might disqualify you from Divvy can be things where we can go in and give you some really good advice. Elena said perfect thing that she had mentioned was, well, let's say I have a really good credit score. But then let's say when I purchased my vehicle 4 years ago, I didn't have a very good credit score. And now what am I doing? I have a high interest rate on that vehicle and I never refinanced. That could be a possibility where we can go in and after looking at your credit report and seeing that you had some good qualifying, let's get you to one of our partners that can help you refinance that vehicle where we drop that interest rate, which drops your payment, but then puts those extra $100, $200, $300 sometimes back on your purchasing power.
Because remember, the calculation is, let's look at how they failed. So let's look at how this person failed. This person failed because 1650 was not met. What's the difference between 1650 and 1330? It's like $280 or so, right? So this person failed because their monthly obligations, this debt per month, whether being in their credit cards plus all of their cards, maybe some kind of debt that they're still paying, et cetera, so what held them back from being able to purchase a house is literally $260 or $70 or $80 per month due to the debt that they have. And that could potentially result in another year worth of renting. Let's just say that they're renting at $2,000 per month. That's $22,000 per year down the drain. And not only that, but also the interest rates are rising, the cost of living is rising, the cost of ownership is rising. So not only did you set yourself back by $22,000 to start with, but you're also setting yourself back by being able to qualify only for a interest rate that's much higher that you could initially be qualified. So just remember that what looks like small changes, small incremental issues can end up being a big problem because your debt to income is what's holding you back from being able to accomplish your goals. So how can you help? And let's look at these suggestions, the one that Divvy said. Can you go through the suggestions and kind of give an overview how you could help, except for a down payment, of course, maybe you cannot help them with that.
Well, One, we talk about the auto refinance.
So
Also,
basically decreasing their debt, right?
correct, right. So that one of the things that a lot of people don't understand as well too is how your FICO score affects you in your everyday life. The top 10 things that I always bring up with people are going to be gas, water, electric, internet, cable, all the deposits that you paid. I spoke with a gentleman the other day. He said, "What do you mean you don't have to pay a deposit when you have good credit?" I said, "Well, yeah, you're not a high risk consumer, so you don't have to put any money up." He's like, "Joe, I don't understand you. I've always have paid deposit." I said, "Well, you probably don't have always had bad credit." He said, "Well, no, hold on. My mother, my grandmother, who I lived with, always paid deposits." And I said, "Well, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but they probably had bad credit too." So all those things that you had to pay more out of pocket for, or had a very limited plan, or you were being gouged for, was based around your FICO score. Car insurance. That's another thing as well too. When I start looking at it, how we can improve the credit score, I tell you, hey, go get a new insurance premium quote. Your FICO score accounts for 60% of what your car insurance premium is going to be dictated by. Because a lot of people think like, "Wow, I'm a great driver. Why do I have such a high rate?" Probably have bad credit. That credit tells them the level of risk you are as a consumer. Car insurance, renter's insurance. If you're a renter right now trying to purchase a home, you're probably thinking, "Why is my rate so high?" Sometimes it's pretty reasonable, but some apartment complexes are wanting more and better coverage. Like, well, more coverage for more monies to be covered under that policy means a higher premium. Also, cell phone. A lot of people don't understand that. I had a client, hand to God, she signed up because Verizon was going to make her pay a $600 deposit, was going to make her pay for her phone. We all know phones are really extremely nice nowadays, and they're going to cost us at least $1,000 for a pretty decent phone. And they were going to limit her to one line. She's got a family. She got 2 children, so it's a family of 3. So basically, they limited her on all these different things. And the deposit alone and the phone alone, that means she's almost having to come up $2,000 out of pocket. Recently, I had a client, Betty, who switched her family plan, and we're talking about Apple Watches, iPads, all the different things, their cell phones, all that. Went from AT&T, switched over to Verizon, and when she had established good credit, we flipped her on over, saved $310 a month. And I was like, "Jesus, what was your plan before?" She's like, "Well, Joe, we got 3 kids and everybody's got their own thing." And then I'm like, that makes sense. All other things that we're paying out of pocket because of the credit issues of our credit report, you've already conditioned to yourself to being accepting of that because you needed it. The car insurance, the high car payments, the different, whatever, telecommunication services that you guys have. Those are things that we can start looking at and getting them back and revamped, where I'm able to, the average person, I would say anybody that contacts me and looking for this information, I'm able to save anywhere from $400 to $600 a month.
So let's look at this family. Let's take this family as our example family, right? They're making $1,550 per month. Just tweaking a few things. How much do you think? We don't know obviously all their accounts that go into it, but right now their credit is $320 per month. And if they were able to eliminate some of that debt, they would actually be able to qualify, right?
Right.
And also, if they were able to bring their score up, they wouldn't even have that issue of eliminating 320, because right now their 320 is not even hurting them that much if they're in a 590 plus category.
Yeah, no, but typically if it's going to be a credit issue, there's these little minor things that you can do to adjust, and you might have good credit already, but it's like incorrect credit card utilization, or it might be mismanagement of current accounts. Student loans. What people don't know is that if you're upside down, if you've been in school and you've been deferring those payments every time you're re-enrolling a new semester, or you're going to go back for your master's degree, or whatever it may be, it's accumulating interest, and the balance is offsetting from a high balance. I took a $20,000 student loan, but I technically owe about $28,000 because I haven't made a payment. The interest is still good. I can help you consolidate. And then put it back to even again. It balances back out, and then we start all over, and we can make a couple of small payments to bring it under from your high balance. And when people don't know, we're looking about an additional point increase just on reconsolidating and making that one payment. So there's little things that you can do that you might already have the tools. We just need to tweak it just a little bit.
Now, question, a lot of times I tell people, well, one of the ways that you can increase your budget is to bring in a co-applicant. They said, oh, my husband, he was divorced 2 years ago and they really took him to the cleaners. So I'm not sure that bringing him as a co-applicant would work. And I say, well, who's making more money in the family? You're your husband. She said, oh, my husband for sure. And I said, then don't you think that bringing him in and cleaning up his credit would be more productive than trying to wipe out all of your because the formula is still here. We can still comply, like add two of your incomes together, and that's definitely going to help. And so very many of them say, well, I'm not sure if, his credit is really bad. I'm like, how bad is really bad? Well, like 400. I'm like, well, that sounds like there's a lot of issues, but like, what would you recommend trying to clean up? Let's just say that I actually have this couple right now. They recently got married. Because of his divorce, he's like at 400, but she's like at 600, but she has a ton of debt. And I'm trying, like, not being a credit analyst, I try to tell them, you have to talk to a credit analyst because you with your limited income can only do so much.
Right. Right.
What would you recommend? Like, what would be, like, imagine I forward them to you. Tell me, I know we did it in a previous video, but kind of run me through what would you do with this couple and what would their process toward recovery look like?
Number one, free credit analysis, right? Looking at the husband's credit. A lot of times, here's what I tend to notice. We tend to think and feed into our personal situation because we had to endure that process, right? We had that rough patch, and I've always have clients who approach me or potential buyers that approach me and say, oh, you probably can't help me, Joe, but you came highly recommended from Elena, I had a really nasty divorce 2 years ago. Okay, well, let's take a look at the credit report. Because you've lived with that and you haven't really done anything to improve it, that's why it remains that way. It's not that you couldn't improve it. It's just you didn't have the right tools or education to empower yourself. So that's something that could be extremely minor, where I can go ahead and I can put you on that action plan and get back on a repayment plan, or do things where you can start making progress and improving that positive payment history. So the number one thing, get that analysis. Let's figure out a game plan.
And you're doing it for free, correct?
Correct. So I do a free credit analysis. I help you generate a free credit report that is going to meet Divvy's requirements of the FICO 2,
FICO 4, whatever.
FICO 9 and the Advantage 4. So we can look at that as a whole, and then we can really break it down even further. Now, let's say we are in those low 400s. We are, it's going to be a tough climb. It's not going to be something that's overnight. It's not something that's going to just, that's going to fix itself with some really good advice from me. Then what we're going to do is we're going to construct a custom game plan so that way we can disclose to you what is going to be needed, how I'm going to be able to go in. If you put me to work, if you allow me to assist you, I'm going to be able to implement a game plan that's going to put you in a position to exceed those dividend minimum requirements. So what I do is I offer you a free consultation.
So let's just imagine the husband had to default on like 6 credit cards, did not pay his had to close his phone or whatever. Kind of what would it look like you helping him? Like, what would you attack? How would you attack this situation?
If he had what now
if he had to default on like 9 credit cards, didn't pay his taxes, and maybe cancel his phone line because he couldn't pay his phone, like, kind of run through the scenario. What would your help look like? Like, would you structure the payments for him? Like, what do you normally do?
We don't do debt consolidation. At that point, you need to be fearful of the fact that if it's within the statute of limitations in the state of Texas, which is 4 years, there's a possibility that you might have some type of litigation filed against you. So we have to assess what the severity of the situation is. How deep in trouble are you? The thing is that I don't want anybody to pay anybody back. And I know that's a very weird statement to say, right? You're like, well, what do you mean? I gotta pay people to increase my credit. No, you don't. First of all, you're dealing with a creditor or a collection agency that sometimes inflates the principal balance. The number one thing that I get a lot from potential buyers is that, Joe, this was a $300 credit card. How is this? They say that this collection agency who represents the credit card company say I owe $1,500. Is that because of like interest or penalties? And I said, stop. You see what you just did? You justified that. You told yourself, because the thing is that, let's say I had a credit card from 4 years ago and I let it go into a default status. I didn't call that credit card company every month and say, hey, I'm not going to pay you back this month, but I'm just wondering what my balance is. We don't do that. It's out of sight, out of mind. It's the same reason why we throw collection letters away. But then when it gets time, push comes to shove that we have to make a move, we have to buy a house because we're tired of paying rent, then we kind of have to face the music. So what we're doing is we're taking the items on the credit report at face value. We're never questioning it. Oh, well, I mean, I haven't paid them back in 4 or 5 years. And
there's probably a lot of interest in that, right?
Yeah, there's interest and penalties and late fees, all the things associated with the defaulted account. You never held anybody accountable. If you went to happy hour and you thought you got overcharged by the bartender, you asked for an itemized receipt. If you go to dinner and there's something that you think that ticket's a little inflated on there, you're going to go to the full breakdown, aren't you? How we do it at the grocery store? Well, hold on, that's not how it rang. No. The sign says it's $5.99, not $11.99. You need to change that. We'll do that in every aspect of our life, but where it counts, and it's on your credit report. Most consumers take it for face value. I don't want you paying people back, because what you're doing is you're admitting the guilt. What if it was a collection agency who's trying to take advantage of you? A lot of times when I explain this to a potential Divvy client is that I said, have you ever seen where you say, hey, you owe us $1,500 for this old credit card. Hey, but we'll settle right now for $500. They're like, yeah, oh, I get those. I see those all the time. Right. Does that make sense? Why would you take such a significant loss on an initial investment? Would we buy a cash car for $5,000 and turn around and sell it for $2,000? No, we wouldn't. That would be bad business. Mm-hmm. What they're not telling you is that most 9 times out of 10, they inflate that principal because they want to jack it up really high so have a more of a.
It looks like you're getting a good deal by paying $500, even the initial was $300, right?
I always bring a Black Friday. You know. They have it say that at the regular price is $1,500, but I'm going to buy it for $700. I said, well, 3 months ago, it was $1,000. Mm-hmm. You're not really getting it for half off. You're just getting it for a few $100s off. Mm-hmm. But because they have it priced that way, that it seems like a significant savings. Mm-hmm. Well, if someone inflates that principle and then offers you that, well, here's what they're doing. They're baiting you. Mm-hmm. They want you to call in. They want you to take them up on that offer, because the moment that you pick up the phone, they're going to say, well, Mr. Camacho, in order for us to bring up your information, what's your current address? What's your social security number? What you're doing is you're validating the information. You are admitting guilt that this is your account, and that $1,500 they put on your credit report is accurate.
And believe it or not, I would totally do that. Oh, even though I know you, and even though you and me know each other for a long time, I would still do that. I would still fall for it. Right,
because you're justifying it. Mm-hmm. You're saying that, well, this is my account, and I'm not saying it's not your account. When I fight for a potential buyer, what I'm doing is I'm auditing the creditor. I'm auditing that collection agency. Okay, I'm letting them know I'm okay with the fact that you say I owe $1,500. However, I'm going to need you to provide me original contract that I signed with that original creditor. I want to see an itemized breakdown of how you accumulated those fees or whatever it may be, because collection agencies love to use this term, accruing collection penalties. Mm-hmm. What is that?
What is it?
It doesn't exist.
You see, when I sign up for a credit report, credit card, I don't think I ever remember saying, but I agree to accruing collection, whatever, right?
Right. And the thing is that when you audit the creditor who originally sold that account to the collection agency, we're asking for original documentation, the original contract, the agreement. Did I sign that in a brick and mortar? Was that a physical signature you have on file? My name is Joe Camacho. You know how many Joe Camachos are out there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the thing is, you know, if we had a last name like Williams or Jefferson or Gonzalez or Hernandez, Martinez or Lee, you know, there's a million of us. There's different variants. So how do we know we're talking about the same Joe? So let's start with that original contract and agreement. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to need to transfer information from that creditor or finance company to the collection agency. What were the final numbers? And what is the written contract between the collection agency and the creditor? And can that collection agency have that accruing collection penalty? Because a lot of time you say with enough confidence, you're listening to this collection agency telling you all this stuff, you're just like, okay, because you're scared. You don't know, and all we're trying to do is, you know, improve our credit. So you think you have to pay all that. I don't want you to pay anybody. I want you to let us hold them accountable. And oh, you don't have the information, Mr. Collection Agency? Weird. You threw it on my credit report, and all of a sudden you can't provide documentation because they don't want to incriminate themselves. If they falsified information, they don't want to incriminate themselves. So okay, well, hey, tough luck then. You don't have information that proves that this is me? Well, then now what I've created for you guys as a home buyer is leverage where I can able to use that against them. Then how do we know we're talking about the same person? You know what? I'm going to give you multiple opportunities to validate this information, to prove that this is mine. You don't have that? Okay, no worries. And I'm going to need you to get off my credit report. That is a difference between what we do to help you to qualify for this home and what other credit card companies are doing. Credit card companies are simply disputing information, trying to lie to the bureaus and say, oh, it's not mine, and oh, it's fraudulent and all that. The bureaus are getting paid. Their private companies are getting paid to report this information. They don't want to delete it off your credit report, but you went online and they said, oh, well, all I got to do is dispute it and it's going to come off. Well, if that was the case, and you would have not been disqualified by Divvy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that simple. So guys,
we kind of got a little bit of a preview of how hard you actually fight for your client. I've never seen you in action. I would be scared to be on the other side of the phone.
You know,
if I was a collection agency, I totally would be scared to be on the other side.
I've had a couple of clients actually been on the phone with me when we gone after a creditor. They're like, this is what you do. And I'm like, day in, day out. They're like, or they try to attempt to what I do, and I give them the information. They say, how do you do this? It's
actually, it's not that hard if you know where the potential problematic issues for credit collection agencies could be, and if you know those issues inside and out. And most of their reps are probably not that well trained anyway. So I would imagine that it's not that hard if you know what you're doing. And this is the problem. Most of us,
you know, if you got 16 years to spend learning understanding consumer and federal law, I mean, you know.
But last question. So all of this wonderful help, I know that we covered in the previous video, and I hate for you to repeat it, but could you repeat it in case you did not want to watch the previous video? How much do your services cost? Let's just start from the initial encounter. So they call you the first time. At which point do they start to pay? How much do they pay, etc.?
Perfect. So let me kind of run down what a typical credit repair company is going to do. Okay? Most credit repair companies are going to charge you anywhere from a $30 to $50 credit report. I offer a credit report that's going to meet all Divvy requirements for $0. Most typical credit repair companies are going to charge you for an analysis that ranges from $50 to $100. My analysis of your credit report, $0. Consultations with the other credit card companies usually range for about $200 to $300 for those consultations. Consultations with most credit card companies also last about 15 minutes before they ask for your credit card information. Mine still $0, and I'm going to invest my time, my energy into you for roughly about anywhere from 2.5 to 3 hours. I want to educate you guys so that way you guys understand exactly what you should be doing. I'm not going to indulge you with the consultation if I don't foresee a level of success. I'm not going to waste your time, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm always going to shoot you straight. And I think most people can appreciate that. Most credit card companies are also going to charge you a setup fee. That setup fee is going to range anywhere from $500 to $1,500. And they're charging you before anything has been done.
Any work had actually been done.
Yeah. And that, and I'm sorry, but most people don't know this, highly illegal.
Oh, really?
You cannot be charging for services unrendered And before, you have to do some work. So how do we get paid? Well, if I present the consultation during the consultation and present this game plan, you're like, oh my God, Joe, I love it. You know, because everything's going to be custom tailored to you and your file. And let's say I know I can get this done like in the next 3 or 4 months. And you're like, Joe, I want to sign up. During the consultation, I'll be able to disclose to you down to the exact cent of how much your initial investment is going to be. That's going to be determined on a case-by-case basis. How much work am I implementing into your credit file? Some cases, I have a few accounts on there. Well, I have a client, you know, he brings me 5 accounts. Okay, maybe it's $700-800 that we're going to be going after. When people think of accounts, you're not thinking of repossessions. You're just thinking maybe like, oh, a cable bill, a medical bill or something like that. Those are things I can teach you and how to resolve on your own. I'm talking about some of the heavy hitting stuff. Well, maybe are some medical bills on there, but there's 40 of them. Maybe the collection agency that you're dealing with is notorious for selling it off, and then you're going to restart all over again. So that's why I want to move forward with the consultation. Now, let's say we have some severity, like it's a bad credit report, kind of like what Elena was talking about, public records and charge-off accounts and all these different things. Well, I've had clients that, yes, we had to help them with judgments. If you guys don't know what a judgment is, it's a lien on your credit report filed through the court system. And that will be the end-all be-killer of a mortgage. You will not, nobody will touch you with a 10-foot pole. They find out you got an outstanding judgment, you're pretty much radioactive to a lender. So I'm going to be able to walk you through that, save you the cost of hiring an attorney to try to get you a release of judgment and to try to negotiate a settlement offer on that judgment. Going to charge you $2,500. Guess what I'm going to charge? $0. I'll walk you through all of that. And even with having some, you know, let's say those extreme cases, sometimes it can be a couple of $1,000s for your initial investment. And no matter what, though, if you are determined in purchasing this home, and let's say it's $2,000, you come back and you love what you hear, and like, well, Joe, I don't have $2,000. That's a lot of money. Well, you're right. It's a lot of money because it's a lot of work. Well, at that point, what we could do is we can work with your budget and say, okay, what can we structure based around your, pay period, your basically around your budget, where we can construct it where it's feasible for you, where you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. Guys, I work with people on fixed incomes. If you watch the other video, SSI, SSID, I work with a lot of hometown heroes, first responders, educators, military personnel, veterans. A lot of these people are only getting paid once a month. How do you make that money stretch? These are clients of mine. And if I can make it work for them, I can make it work for you. But the first thing we got to do is we got to start with that analysis and determine, hey, what type of level of service or help do you need? And that's what we're here for. We're here to make sure that we can point you in the right direction.
So guys, if you've been declined from Divvy straight up due to a credit issue, they said insufficient credit, or you've been declined because they said minimum rent requirement is not met, I strongly recommend do not take it into your hands. Like, I wouldn't operate on my own teeth. Like, I wouldn't drill my own teeth. I wouldn't cut my own hair. Why would I want to try to fix a complicated system like credit myself, just trying to randomly lob some sums of money at random bills and think that I'm doing a good thing for my credit? So contact Joe. So his company is called the Phoenix Group. Now there is another Phoenix Group that I found out. One time I lost her contact information and I Googled Phoenix Group and a different company came up, but I realized it was the wrong logo. So I got off that website, but that scared me because there is apparently an imposter.
Yes. We've heard this from partners all over the United States. They say, oh, we'll just contact Joe Camacho at the Phoenix Group. They've called this other company. They asked me specifically, oh, yeah, we can help you. So we've become very, very popular in the real estate industry, mortgage, home builders, business finance. We're kind of the industry's go-to for credit restoration.
You actually are, yes.
And so because we've become popular, people have now decided to literally name themselves. We literally watch them change their name to write the coattails of our popularity.
So guys, please pay super attention. It is thephoenixgroup.com, and I'm going to put that link into, so do not just Google Phoenix Group. That's the wrong way to go.
Yeah, no O.
Correct. So
we're
you
not
can see, look at his logo and look at the name, and I'm going to put the link to his group there. Do not try to Google it, or you might end up on the wrong side like I did. And also his contact information, his email and his phone number are here. Now, this is his landline, not his cell phone, so do not text him on that phone. But yes, so Joe is probably my go-to expert to just about anything that comes, that touches credit, debt to income issues, etc. Guys, like and subscribe. If you have any questions to Joe, you can contact him on his cell phone. Also, if you drop your questions here in the comments, I will make sure that he sees those comments. I'll forward your comments to him.
Awesome.
Other than that,
no cell phone. It's on a landline.
It's on a landline, yes. So
yes,
do
no
not text
me.
him. Yeah, do not
text
me
an email or just leave me a voicemail.
Exactly. So that's it for now. If hopefully with the video number 1 on how to improve your credit score for Divvy Homes, and then video number 2 on how to improve your chances of being approved by having a larger budget, you now, no matter what your challenges currently are, you can now have some hope that you will be able within 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, you will be able to qualify either for Divvy Homes or straight up for a mortgage, because by the time Joe is done with you, you might be like ready to qualify for a mortgage right away without having to go through Divvy. But we're not going to touch on that because this is about Divvy Homes process. But the point is, you may feel disappointed, you didn't get approved for what you hope to be a good program. Go ahead, contact Joe, talk to him, take him up on his offer for a free educational session. See if you feel like it's worthwhile for you to put yourself through a program of getting your credit straight for Divvy Homes or for a mortgage right away. And then we will see you on the other side of this process. Thank you so much, Joe. Big high five. They're always such a big help for me. And hopefully we'll see you on other videos, because to be honest, this is a topic that we can unpack forever and ever and ever. And I'm hoping to do some, maybe even guys coming up. I'm planning to take a couple of people who actually did get rejected from Divvy, and maybe without disclosing their identities, we can take the situation that they had. We can look at what Joe did, how did he help him, and then show you the beautiful home that they were able to buy at the end. So this, hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit of their struggle, and it will help you to motivate to take the first step, take that plunge, open that credit report, no matter how bad it is. And so I'm just going to do it. Thank you so much, Joe, and I'll talk to you soon.
You're welcome. Bye.